Alright, today's going to be a critical analysis on a critical analysis. I'm going to be criticizing the way that Ask Yourself goes about looking into the atheist experience argument against veganism for a recent caller they have. So without further ado, let's go into that.
Sometimes I think I need to make a whole series where I just rip on the atheist experience for their terrible performance on the topic of veganism. Here's yet
That was a good way to start by poisoning the well.
another cringy atheist experience video. We've got Tracy Harris, Russell Glasser. Who wants to watch them cringe out on the topic of veganism? Here
I mean, he really sets the stage, doesn't he?
we go.
Colin.
Come on,
Colin in California.
It's all on you.
Hey, Russell. Hey, Tracy. I just want to
Hey.
thank you guys for having
How
me
you
on
doing?
the show.
Yeah, please be reasonable.
Good. So, I have
Well, I mean, I'd say the same to you guys. Please be reasonable.
So there would be two different distinct meanings of being reasonable in this case. One would be like logical reasoning. I think that would be the sort of sense that Ask Yourself was using when he responded. But when Tracy said, please be reasonable, I think she meant by demeanor, by the attitude. More than likely because they've had, a lot of um, people trying to go against them in veganism topic ever since Matt Dillahunty did his thing with Cosmic Skeptic, and they're probably very aggressive. So what she means by be reasonable is just like be calm, don't be a jerk. And I don't know if Ask Yourself is asking them to do that. That tends to be their general demeanor. I think more he means logical, so we have an equivocation.
I have two questions for you guys. One of which is probably not on your screen, so I'm going to ask the second one, which would be, first off, are you guys meat eaters? Do you guys eat meat?
Yep, and here we go.
Yes.
I think that's a bad way to answer the question from Tracy. There's no point of saying, here we go. That almost just shows that you're not going to take it seriously. I might not be vegan, but I think the vegan question should be taken seriously.
Sorry, I don't mean to be this type of person. I'm just,
Don't apologize for asking a completely reasonable question.
I agree with Ask Yourself on that one.
curious as to why you haven't maybe gone vegan or considered it.
I guess you have? You're asking me why I haven't done something. That's an odd question.
You didn't answer the question. You just called it odd. There's nothing odd about it. Why haven't you gone vegan? You can just say something like, I haven't seen any reason to. It's an easy question to answer.
So basically, by her saying it's an odd question, is her implying that there was no reason to do so. Ask Yourself should probably realize that's what that meant, because that's pretty much what they always say when it comes to atheism or anything else. Why don't I believe in God? Because I have no reason to believe in God. Why haven't I gone vegan? Because I don't have a reason to go vegan. Saying it's an odd question basically implies that.
Well, I mean, earlier in the show you were talking about consent, and
Yeah.
I view that animals haven't really.
I do not put
Sorry,
all
yeah,
animals
animals
in the
haven't-
same.
I really hope that I hope we're not about to get a deontological consent-based argument for veganism. That would go somewhere weird. Obviously, if you just use the principle of consent, you'll get to these really funny situations where it's like, okay, if you can like choose to either
I don't know what the point of Ask Yourself just guessing what he's going to say. Just move on and then find out what he does say and criticize that.
violate someone's consent or like a galaxy of sentient life explodes, which do you choose? Well, if your core principle is consent, apparently you have to not violate the unconsenting person. So you let the galaxy explode. That seems insane. So I hope that we're not going to get some
Move on.
deontological
Let's find out what he
consent-based
actually
case here,
says.
but we'll see.
In the same category of sentience and having rights as my fellow human beings. All
Okay, so sentience and being human, basically. So he's saying they have different sentience and they have then they're not human. So we can take humans who.
There's no point of starting this process when you can't speak to a person and know whether or not this list is exhaustive. But we can take the way Ask Yourself reads it, and then we'll investigate that.
Are at the same or lower level of sentience than the animals we eat, right? And then they would still have this property of being human that you think gives them value. So let's just say that we transport their consciousness out of human bodies into machine substrate, right? Now they don't have the level of sentience that's higher than the animals that we eat, and they're not human. Is it fine to murder those beings?
So again, we're getting to ask yourselves consciousness transfer. This is one of the weirder statements that he's been constantly using. I don't know what he means by transferring consciousness. How does one transfer consciousness? If you're a materialist, then you are transferring material, right? So you would have to transfer a brain or something. That would be a human brain. If you are a dualist, you'd be transferring a soul or something like a soul. You know, Descartes says a soul was a thinking thing. So you'd be transferring a thinking thing, but you could still say it was a human thinking thing, right? It came from a human, so it's a human thinking thing. I don't know what he means by consciousness transfer. How do you transfer the consciousness of something? And anything you do transfer is going to sound like you are transferring a human X. Whatever it is, it sounds like it came from a human, so it's still a human's whatever you consider this transfer to be.
Though I understand that reasonable people disagree about this, but from my
Yeah, no shit.
personal philosophy, I wouldn't eat a person, and I probably wouldn't eat something cute, although that's...
Oh, and cuteness. Okay, so let's say we take the humans who have the same or lower level of sentience than the animals we...
I really don't think when he said cuteness, it was like a principled statement, as if he thinks it would be wrong if someone else ate something cute. So I don't know why Ask Yourself is wasting his time on this one, adding it.
eat, so we get rid of the sentience trait. Let's say we move them out of the human species, so we get rid of the human trait. And let's say the thing we put them into is ugly. Is it now fine to murder them?
That may be my personal prejudice, but I don't have a problem eating cows and chickens.
And I feel like I'm a member of a social species, and like all social species, I draw distinctions between my own species and other species.
I don't think that's a necessary requirement between social species. I mean, if we end up in the Star Trek universe, we wouldn't define a social species based off of just species. It would be based off of the ability to communicate within different species.
Just like...
Right, so species, though. So for you, we don't even need those two other traits of cuteness and sentience level. We can just say, okay, if there's a human and their consciousness is transported into something that's not of the human species, like machine substrate, is it now fine to murder that being?
Again, same problem. We can just say whatever was transferred is still human.
Like any other animal. I don't view myself as above other animals. I view myself as an animal.
Wait. What? Okay, so that just doesn't make sense. If you're gonna say that on your system it's morally justified to eat animals, they have a different moral status than you. They have a lower moral status. You can't say in the next breath that we have the same moral status. We're the...
I don't think she said that they have the same moral status. She says, I'm not above other animals. Now, that could mean a whole host of things. That was his very vague statement. Ask Yourself has transferred this into I don't have a higher moral status than other animals. That's a possible interpretation, but it does not have to mean it is the interpretation. Another possible thing she could say is, I'm saying there's no intrinsic higher worth. It's just that every species is out for themselves. We're not above each other, but we're the ones that are currently winning because we have more power than the other ones. That could be a sort of statement, so that there's like no moral statements going on. it sounds like some sort of intrinsic worth statement, but either way, I wouldn't want to try and translate that sentence into another statement like Ask Yourself did, because then you're just going to end up straw manning if they turn around and say that's not what I meant.
Same or something. Did I just mishear her?
Other animal, other species. Just like any other animal. I don't view myself as above other animals. I view myself as
No.
an animal.
Okay, that's ridiculous. So that's just going to be a straight up contradiction. So if you say, I don't view myself as above other animals, I take that to mean that we have equivalent moral status to other animals. And
There's no reason for him to take the statement that way.
if on your moral system it's fine to murder other animals, I take that as meaning it's not the case that we have equivalent moral status to other animals. So your position is just contradictory. That's not even coherent. I thought at the start you were just going to say species, though, but you can't say species, though, as a justification for murder, and then in the next breath say that we have, we're the same as animals. We're not, obviously. I mean, if if you don't view yourself as above them, that means that they have the same.
Stopping cold turkey isn't the only way to manage a drinking problem. Here at Elevita, abstinence is not a requirement.
Okay.
Moral status as us. If it's fine to eat them, that means they don't have the same moral status as us. It's got to be one or the other. You can't just...
No, it doesn't. It doesn't even have to be that. She could say we all have equal moral status, yet we can all just kill each other. It just defines morality as that sort of thing. Where it's like, yeah, it would be moral for them to kill us, and it's moral for us to kill them. It's really just a power struggle. That's and a possible interpretation of what I think Tracy? Is that Tracy? I think that could be one way that she's describing it. So no contradiction. You haven't proven a contradiction. Really, you've just made a series of assumptions which lead to a contradiction in your head.
Well, I mean, I guess you can hold a contradictory position, but if you're thinking that you're not contradicting yourself, or you'd rather not contradict yourself, then you might want to adjust that.
Well, I mean, as above another animal, I mean, I feel like...
No, I don't view myself that way.
I don't know, like that...
but for some reason it's morally justified to eat them. So we have the same moral status, except it's fine to eat them and it's not fine to eat me. That seems completely coherent.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't know. I just view that these animals haven't really given us consent.
Right, and a rabbit doesn't give
torture
consent to
them
be
and-
eaten by a coyote, and yet that's social species they treat each other. Coyotes don't treat each other like they do prey animals.
So it seems to be, Tracy seems to say that, like, within a certain species, there's certain rules, but outside of different species, it's kind of whatever goes, maybe? It's hard to determine, but she seems to have different rules for interspecies relationships than she does for different species relationships. And she's saying that when it comes to other animals, other species, consent is just not going to be a factor. And then I guess she's giving the example of the coyote and the rabbit as one of those types of examples.
Like, these people just have the worst arguments. Like, what are you talking about? Okay, so is that just some, like, descriptive statement about what animals do in nature? I mean, if so, that's obviously not what we're talking about. We're talking about your ethical system. And if your ethical system is just appealing to some descriptive state of affairs in nature, it's just an appeal to nature argument, you're just saying, species eat each other, so it's fine for us to eat species. Let's just apply that same concept.
No, I don't think that's necessarily what she's saying. I don't think she's saying that whatever animals do in nature, we can do. It just seems to be that she thinks there are rules for interspecies relationships that don't exist for different species relationships. That seems to be the way I would take that statement.
Say that there's some kind of hypersentient alien species, they can easily avoid eating humans, and they just decide to because they like the taste of human burger. Is that, ethical because species eat species in nature? I mean, either it's a prescriptive statement, and that's ethical on your view, or it's a descriptive statement, and you're just not answering the question. You're just stating some descriptive fact.
I have no problem with the alien reductio on that one, because if she is saying that there is only interspecies relationships and not different species relationship, the alien hypothetical would hold in that case.
That's like a normal social species distinction.
Right. For me,
I don't know, I
it,
guess I
it
think
comes
the
down a lot
analogy-
to level of
And why is she
sentience.
just talking about social species? Don't all species like distinguish themselves from other species? Like, I don't think it has to be a social species. Take a snake. You're not going to see a snake like, you know, like whatever. We'll keep going.
I mean, if I were to run into an alien species that had the
Oh, we're going to aliens. I'm very curious where he's going to go here.
that had thoughts and philosophies and the ability to communicate with me, I would probably not kill them for meat.
Yeah, the idea.
Right, but that's because they have your trait of sentience. So let's go to the reductio on your position. You said that it's sentience, being human, and cuteness, right? So let's take the humans who...
Obviously, cuteness didn't matter. But, okay, we've already gone over this. Why, ask yourself, just didn't understand. Like, this entire thing. Transferring human whatever means you're transferring something to do with a human. Like, there's no way that you're going to get around that.
are below the level of sentience as the animals that we eat. Let's say we transport their consciousness out of human bodies, so they're no longer human, not part of the human species. And let's say that the bodies they're in are not cute. On your view, it should be fine to just holocaust the minds of those disabled people. Do you accept that?
The idea would be, though, that you are able to integrate with them in a social way that is
Right.
constructive, that I can actually interplay with you in a way that creates a society that is beneficial to everybody.
All right, so Tracy is clearly adding that species that are intelligent can join within her system.
Survival. When
Wait, so it's I gotta hear that again.
in a way that social way that is
Right.
constructive, that I can actually. The idea would be, though, that you are able to integrate with them in a social way that is
Right.
constructive, that I can actually interplay with you
What
in
does that mean? A social way that is constructive?
a way that
I don't know why Ask Yourself would find that confusing. It would be like aliens come to Earth and they're like, hey, let's work together and build a society together. That would be a social way in which we're constructive. I don't think that's a confusing statement.
creates a society that is beneficial to everybody's survival. When other species are not lending that, they become, to anybody that is concerned about
Yeah.
their own survival, somehow less important than.
What are you talking about? So, like,
I mean, not complicated. Aliens would be able to join our society, participate within, rituals or whatever, and they could teach us theirs, and we'd be able to teach each other different things and be able to propagate and make a better society. Whereas an animal tends to not have the ability to lend any of that. That's really all she's saying.
are you saying that if an animal is, like, trying to kill you or something, that you can't, like, have it in your house as, like, part of your society? Like, what?
What? What? I don't know how you came to that conclusion.
What are we talking about? I mean, I just don't understand what you're saying. I'll try listening to that one more time.
Yeah, the idea would be, though, that you are able to integrate with them in a social way that is
Right.
constructive, that I can actually interplay with you in a way that creates a society that is beneficial to everybody's survival. When other species are not lending that, they become, to anybody that is concerned about
Yeah.
their own survival, somehow less important than their own species, or at least, like I said, it depends on how you prioritize your own survival.
Your own survival. Say that they're no threat to your survival. I mean, what are we talking about? Is the argument there just something like, I don't know what she's saying. At the start, it sounded like she was saying something.
Like, I think you're thinking of survival as in, like, you're about to die sort of situation, or you're, like, trapped in the ring with a tiger is sort of survival. I think she's just meaning that when we create better societies, we have better chances of surviving. And intelligent alien species would be able to help us progress a better society, which increases everybody's ability to survive in a way that animals aren't able to lend a hand in that way.
About, like, ability to, like, build a society or something. But then at the end, she said it's, like, about a threat to your survival. So I don't really know. That seemed a little loose. But if the idea is, like, that if something is threatening your life or your
It's not like an immediate threat she's talking about.
survival, that it's okay to defend yourself. I mean, I certainly agree with that. But it's not like cows are, like, threatening your survival or your civilization or something.
That has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that the cows can't help build a society which increases people's survival.
Or can't be, collaborated with to the same degree as other animals like dogs or something like this. So I just don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, it sounded like he was getting closer, but I guess he just didn't follow the logic on that.
Right. And I hate to say this, but we've had this conversation before, and
Yeah,
it tends to be really tangential to atheism. And I think this may be an agree to disagree situation where you might want to consider.
I think these people really don't want to get deep on this. I think that the whole atheist experience, it's like it's this crowd of people who know that their position is indefensible and just want to get the fuck away from this topic.
And generally, what Ask Yourself does in these situations is just, put all this shit on people's intentions that he couldn't possibly prove. Oh, this is why they're doing it. That's why they're being dishonest. Oh, they're being a sophist, this and that. Like, I mean, he doesn't ever have any proof for this. It's just an assertion.
Topic.
Switching to another point, because we're not going to let this take up the entire rest of the show.
I completely understand.
Although we are going to get a bunch of email about it.
Sure. So agree to disagree. My second question is more just curiosity. I've heard Matt talk about in the past the ability to not really know something with an absolute certainty. Can you guys just go into a little more detail?
Okay, so the rest is just unrelated. So that was an absolutely cringy fail. I've got to try calling into the atheist experience at some point, but there we go. Yet another video of the atheist experience failing on veganism.
Okay, so he says they fail. In my opinion, Ask Yourself fails by making reductios that don't really work, not understanding people's positions, making assumptions about statements meaning other statements without proving it, guessing at people's intentions without being able to prove it. It's just problematic, his approach. I mean, the easy thing when it comes to these sort of transfers, if you say you transfer similar consciousness, oh, I hate these words. Similar, fine, sentience. I know these terms don't really make sense if you actually understand them, but I'll just use Ask Yourself's language game in order to try and get this point across. That was originally in a cow to a pig. Would you kill it? Oh, okay. Actually, we'll just say X-ish, right? So we're going to say that it's somewhere around X. Some level of intelligence, or we're going to say no self-awareness, we're going to put it low. And then we're going to say transfer X-ish, X-ish 2, in order to just say it's different than X, but it's somewhere in the same realm. Sentience that was originally in a human to a pig. Would you kill it? I mean, if you want, you can change pig to machine substrate or whatever. And I'm going to change this to kill it for food, right? Because I don't think anybody's just going to kill anything just for the hell of it. It's quite obvious that most people are going to say yes to this. Most people are going to say no to this. And if Ask Yourself wants a good reductio, or if he wants to make any good philosophical point whatsoever, he's going to have to show, he's going to have to understand that the difference between these two things is this word, right? This is what's making people say no to it. So the fact that it's now in a pig or a machine substrate or whatever the hell you want to call it, the fact that you move the consciousness or sentience or whatever word he wants to use in whatever method he wants to talk about, not that most of the methods he talks about even make a lick of sense, but if they did, if there was some sort of soul or something, then this word is the reason why people want to say no to this one, right? He wants to say that this is a powerful reductio to show that people are actually, you know, they actually do value the level of sentience. That's what's important. But if you ask people this question and they just say yes to it, then there's only one real difference, and it's right here. So yeah, again, I think the humanity trait holds up. I think his reductios are powerless. If he's going to argue for veganism, I think he has to argue for why this level of sentience matters in anything. Not something just derived from a human, not something that has something to do with humans. It shouldn't matter, right? You shouldn't need to use this word to make a point. And if the only way you can make a point or you can make a reductio seem powerful is if you use this word, then now you know it has the power. Now you know what the value is. It's right there. So again, yeah, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.